Immigrants from countries like Ghana are generally not the target for crackdowns like the one that is currently happening, in part because unlike countries like Mexico, where people would just need to cross a physical border to get here, Ghanaian immigrants would have to go through the more rigorous process of coming here through the sea or by air. But Mr. Trump's ruthlessness on immigration means no one is really safe. As it stands, up to about 7,000 people holding Ghanaian passports have been asked to go home. Huge amounts of food like this heap of cassava here continues to go waste in many parts of Ghana. And yet, this is a country where nearly 1.6 million people are at risk of hunger and malnutrition. And in many cases, like it is here in Amankwa Krom, it's usually because there's no way to move this from the farm gates to the market where they are most needed. Once upon a time, this was the only health facility providing health care for the thousands of people who live here in Old Fadama. This was run by a private citizen. Once the man who led this facility died, health care in Old Fadama died too. And in its place is this rundown infrastructure taken over by filth and also churches. This is Ghana's biggest shanty town, a mixed bag enclave bustling with life. Old Fadama is badly overcrowded, and coronavirus, if it does strike here, will do damage.
One of the things that is interesting about Ghana is that it's a two-party system, just like the United States is, where two parties essentially change who is in power, rotate who is in power. And it sounds like similar to the US, the media in Ghana is becoming polarized around these two parties.
Exactly. I think I get a sense that the polarization that is happening in our media now is in many ways a reflection of how polarized our society itself is. And a lot of people, especially people in political office and politically exposed people, their business friends, I get a sense, are taking advantage of this polarization to sort of pitch the people against the media. Yes, there are many challenges in our media setup, which means that sometimes not all of us get it correct in terms of our reporting, but what I get the sense is happening now is a deliberate agenda to sort of run down the credibility of the media in a way that would reduce the level of trust that the people would have in especially critical media. When that happens, then what happens is that they are able to get away with some of the wrongs that go on. So for example, in the instance of NASA's journalist that was killed, huge investigation about corruption in our football. What happens if they are able to run down the credibility of the journalists involved? Then what it means that people would place less trust in some of these stories, and then they are able to get away with some of the rot.
Well, that sounds like there's some parallels to that in the United States as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been speaking to people, and when Donald Trump calls media in the U.S. as fake news, and people who are working all around the country producing quality journalism and refers to them as fake news, I get a sense the whole idea is to make them look less credible in a way that you are then able to get people to rubbish any journalism that comes out of some of these places. It's almost like a mini refugee camp here. The children who live here and their parents have come from West African countries like Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Most of them sleep rough on hard pavements like this. And if you walk right up the street, there are hundreds more who sleep like this till morning, all in this Accra neighborhood of Aboseokai. The people who live here who have been speaking to me say on a daily basis, hundreds of them arrive in buses to Accra. When Frank's bicycle got crushed and he needed urgent help, it took his family more than 5 hours to make the journey from this village to see the nearest specialists in the Tamale Teaching Hospital, the only teaching hospital in northern Ghana. By the time they had made that journey, Frank says he was already unconscious and in unbearable pain.
Inside this church building made of raffia, hands are raised in prayer. It's 2 days before presidential elections in Ivory Coast. 10 years ago, when a similar poll happened, more than 3,000 people were killed. Those here were part of the thousands who fled for their lives. They have been living in Ghana since then.
I just pray. 2 days now I didn't sleep because I fear for my family.
This is the Ampain refugee camp. More than 1,000 people live here. It's one of 3 that were built to receive Ivorian refugees during the country's war of 2010.
And for my country, if the election was not passed well, it means that I will do maybe 10 years again.
Natasha Baidoo is showing me photos people have sent her from home. She claims these are pictures of those who were butchered on the streets of Abidjan for protesting President Alassane Ouattara's decision to run for a 3rd term.
2 days now I didn't sleep because I fear for my family. They are free. They are free. And most of my friends, my sisters call me, they want to come. But they close the border. So they don't know where they can pass to come. Many of people, when they reach the border, they can't pass because they don't have money, or they just tell them to go back. They want to save their life and they tell them to go back. It's not easy.